Hey, good morning, everyone. It is 9:45. Welcome to the ATP Symposium panel, Building Strong Community Partnerships. We will now begin the panel. I will hand it over to Jenny, and I will let you share your screen. Good morning, everyone. Thank you.
Good morning. Can you hear me? And can you see my screen?
Yes,
Great.
Jenny, we could share your screen.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Active Transportation Symposium. This panel is called Building Strong Community Partnerships, and we have a lot to share with you today. My name is Jenny Weiss, and I'm from the Natural Resources Services Division of Redwood Community Action Agency in Humboldt County, California. Before I begin my presentation, I just want to quickly point out some of these Zoom webinar features. As you've noticed, all participants are muted and your video feature is turned off. This is a quick reminder that this session is being recorded and that we have 75 minutes for this session. We're going to plan to present for no more than an hour amongst the three of us panelists, and then we're going to have 15 minutes following the presentations for question and answer session. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentations, but please ask questions in the question and answer widget, the Q&A widget, not the chat widget. If you do ask questions in the chat, they will not be read. So the chat is only if you have technical issues in which you need to reach the meeting producer. So again, please input all presentation related questions into the Q&A. In addition, there's a feature in the Q&A widget where you can upvote questions. So if you have the same question, or if you're really interested in having a specific question answered, please upvote it. And then that question will, or the questions that have the most votes are likely to get asked first. So we have three speakers on this panel today, including myself. Again, I'm Jenny Weiss, a projects coordinator from the Natural Resources Services Division of Redwood Community Action Agency in Eureka, California. We're also going to be hearing from Tamy Quigley. She's a senior transportation planner at Caltrans District 2. And completing the panel is Alma Leyva, a community programs manager at CalWalks. So if you want to know more about us, you can read our bios on the ATRC Active Transportation Symposium website. So let's get started. I'm going to be kicking it off with my presentation. And just to get started a little bit about my organization, Natural Resources Services is a division of the Redwood Community Action Agency. We're a nonprofit based in Eureka, California. There are community action agencies all over the country, but RCAA is the only one in the country with a Natural Resources Services division. And we call ourselves NRS, and we're committed to building healthy communities on active transportation and non-motorized transportation projects, as well as working with private landowners, government agencies, timber and fisheries industries, tribes, and community-based groups to promote healthy watersheds through environmental restoration work. So our active living shop, we've been working on trail projects, safe routes to school, and non-motorized transportation planning projects for nearly 2 decades. And I've been with NRS for about 12 years now. Just a little geography. Humboldt County is at the top of the state. We're on the coast. We only have one county, which is Del Norte to the north of us, between us and the Oregon border. We have several tribes, 7 incorporated cities, and the rest of the region is unincorporated. I want to start my presentation today by acknowledging that I'm making this presentation on unceded territory of Indigenous people. Within Humboldt County's lines are traditional ancestral territory and current homelands of several Indigenous nations, including the Hupa, Karuk, Matole, Tolowa, Wailaki, Wiyot, and Yurok. And I myself am speaking to you today from the Humboldt Bay region, and I am on Wiyot land. Humboldt County is noted for mild but very wet winters, cool, foggy summers, and because we have a range of elevations from sea level on the coast to the King Range, which is 4,000 feet in elevation, there's a variety of weather from rain and snow and ice. We also have very remote communities that are tucked away in the hills. It's beautiful and it's a popular tourist destination. It's home to Redwood National Park. But we're very spread out in Humboldt County. We have a lot of schools that are spread out, 90 schools in 32 districts in a variety of settings. Some of our schools and communities are located in neighborhoods, and some are walkable and bikeable, but a lot are located in far-off reaches of the county, where there is limited walking and biking infrastructure, especially outside of city limits, which makes encouraging active transportation quite challenging at times. As most of you already know, research shows that people who live in areas with safe and accessible walking and biking opportunities enjoy better overall health and a cleaner environment, greater economic opportunities, and a stronger sense of community. Now, rural and urban communities share some similar challenges around walking and biking, like weather, fear of crime, maybe difficult topography, but the fact is that people living in rural areas tend to have fewer options for getting physical activity. We've got the problem of distance between destinations, weather, lack of or completely unsafe or inadequate pedestrian and bike infrastructure, lack of drainage infrastructure, which can make walking tough, remote winding roads, sometimes wildlife dangers. These are all types of challenges with our physical environment. Also, we have a lot of state highways that run through our communities. A lot of schools in rural communities are also located on state highways, which makes it really challenging. Typically, there's less access to facilities that provide exercise opportunities like rec centers and parks and community centers in rural areas too. So it's this suite of challenges that's unique to rural communities that often reduce safe opportunities for people to walk and bike as a main mode of transportation. So I'm just bringing this up because rural conditions must be recognized and addressed in order to create complete streets, so that barriers can be removed and people can feel safe and comfortable walking and bicycling as a means of transportation and make it the norm. So one thing, though, that rural communities may have over urban areas is that in small towns, it can be easier to connect with elected officials. Sometimes they're your neighbors, or you have mutual friends, or you see each other in the same locations. It can really help ease the process of bringing safety concerns to the limelight. And there's often community members that wear a lot of different hats too. So when someone joins a coalition under one official hat, his or her other affiliations can also benefit the group. Another benefit often in rural communities is that many trails are planned and constructed and maintained by volunteers and community groups. And that really helps further bringing our community together around specific projects. I've been leading Safe Routes to School programs and trail projects and non-motorized transportation planning projects for a dozen years here throughout the county. And I've learned that even relatively small investments in active transportation can really result in big returns because of, if you think about the health and environmental outcomes and the growing networks that are often built even through small projects. I'll give you an example. In 2010, the city of Eureka, which is the county seat here in Humboldt County, received a grant through Safe Routes to School for infrastructure improvements to increase walking and biking to and from a school in Eureka called Washington Elementary. And the budget also included funding for education and encouragement. At that time, a small amount of funding for that education encouragement program was set aside for staff time to form and coordinate a Safe Routes to School task force to help guide the program. That was, I didn't realize it at the time, but that was a key step that really took some foresight, creating some funding for that coalition, just a little bit of funding, because great partnerships formed out of that task force. Since that program and funding ended at Washington Elementary, the task force continued to meet, usually with rotating facilitators, and we successfully spread the reach of Safe Routes to other Eureka schools by conducting walk audits, implementing policy, and providing education. So we spread from one school to many schools in Eureka. And since that time, the Eureka Task Force has now grown to be a countywide task force. So it started as a small project, and it's now a full-blown countywide effort, thanks to eager partners. So bringing new stakeholders into coalition like this really helps raise public and political awareness of active transportation. So a little bit more about that countywide Safe Routes to School task force. again, it took some forward thinking. Thanks to our forward thinking transportation planning agency, HCOG, which stands for Humboldt County Association of Governments. We worked on a project with them. RCAA worked with HCOG back in 2012 to develop a safe routes to school prioritization tool. And we did that to determine which schools in our county have the greatest need and capacity for safe routes to school programs so that we could make our Safe Routes to School, now ATP, Active Transportation Program applications from Humboldt County more competitive. Instead of all of our jurisdictions, competing for the same pot of money, we wanted to look at which schools really had the capacity and need to do this. And so the prioritization tool looked at different indicators for school readiness, like existing conditions at each school to determine school readiness. We looked at external need, like, what existing bike and pedestrian facilities exist and what are the posted speed limits. We looked at the internal need. We evaluated this by reviewing things like, school enrollment numbers, the percentage of students receiving free or reduced meals, collision data, the percentage of carless households. These were all considerations. And so then each school was ranked on the same criteria. And at that time, a countywide Safe Routes to Schools task force was developed, and they helped us guide this project. We had already engaged partners that we'd made through the Eureka Task Force. And so through this prioritization tool project, our task force members assisted in developing criteria for the tool and also participated in several walkability audits. It's been extremely effective in helping our local schools and districts. We've received millions of dollars in Humboldt County in ATP funding since Cycle 1 began. So forming coalitions and partnerships such as Safe Routes to School task forces and other active transportation task forces make it possible to bring diverse views to the table and really tackle issues and concerns with a broad perspective. So, we can all really use all the help we can get, and we really benefit from strong community partnerships. And sometimes, city staff or engineers have great ideas for improving walking and biking in their community. But from my experience, evaluating and taking the time to listen to the community's needs are going to result in the most rewarding programs. So, for example, one very successful program I worked on that was extremely rewarding was an active transportation project in Arcata, California, a couple years ago. So what happened was I was contacted by a parent of a student at that school who had safety concerns. And it was really interesting because she only lived 2 blocks from her daughter's school, but the street lacked sidewalks. There were no safe crossings. There was no signage. And so even though it was super close, her daughter couldn't safely walk to school. And there were other parents in that neighborhood who had the same safety concerns. And so she had heard about the task force, so she called me, and I was able to contact the public works folks in the city of Arcata and let them know. And we worked with the public works and pulled together their PTA at the elementary school and organized a walk audit to observe conditions and make recommendations. And then the city was able to apply for ATP funding in 2016. And they used recommendations from the walk audit that we helped them lead. And it was funded in 2018 for infrastructure improvements and an education and encouragement program. So this was actually a pretty quick project compared to some other projects that I've worked on that have taken, 5 or more years. This one happened, I'd say within about 2 years. And we listened to the community, and we were able to get those dollars to make the improvements and provide the education that was needed. Funding through ATP, it helped them receive, the crosswalks and the bulb outs and the rapid flashing beacons, bike and pedestrian safety education in the classroom, and support for different events to encourage kids to walk and bike to school. But in addition, we got another partnership out of this project. We wrote into the grant an evaluation component where we partnered with Humboldt State University in Arcata and partnered with the kinesiology department so that students could learn about safe routes to school and the important role that pedestrian infrastructure plays in encouraging students to be able to walk to school and maintain their health. So it was really cool. The HSU students helped conduct pedestrian and bicycle counts for the project to help with the evaluation component. And they also helped with encouragement by being role models and promoting walk to school day participation. They came to some school assemblies, and it was a really rewarding experience for the college students to be able to receive on the ground experience on a local project. So that was just some creative thinking there. Another project that was led by very strong partnerships is a project called the McKinleyville Multimodal Connections Project. And this project's currently underway right now. It's being funded by the Caltrans Sustainable Communities Grant Program. And in the unincorporated community of McKinleyville, there's a huge need for safer walking and biking infrastructure, particularly at the community's south gateway. You can see that middle picture in my presentation. Vehicles exit Highway 101 at high speeds, and there's no existing facilities for pedestrians or cyclists when they get to McKinleyville. So concerned community members formed a sort of a ad hoc trails group, which alerted the County Public Works Department to their priorities for active transportation connectivity in McKinleyville. And then the county applied to Caltrans for the planning study, and they were not funded the first time. So the Trails Group then partnered with our, we have a McKinleyville Municipal Advisory Committee, which is comprised of volunteers who live or own property or conduct business in McKinleyville. And they provide a sort of a consistent forum for the public to hear about and advise the Planning Commission on community issues, on things like land use and public health and safety. So the McKinleyville Trails Group became a committee of the MCMAC, is what we call the McKinleyville Advisory Committee, and that helped really grow the effort. And so when the county reapplied for this Caltrans Sustainable Communities Planning Grant funding on behalf of the Trails Group and the MCMAC, the application was successful because it demonstrated a genuine need directly from the community. I think creativity really helps in our work, just kind of thinking outside the box. There's a, it's a lot more fun for everybody involved when you kind of do things a little bit differently. So we try to spice up our walk to school day events and to get more kids to participate with some costuming. Another creative partnership strategy I can share with is from a few years ago, where we tried to develop a meaningful safe routes to school program for the very tough audience of middle schoolers. It's really challenging to engage this age level at times in walking and biking. So we were trying to figure out, what would really speak to them. And so we worked with our local transit agency, Humboldt Transit Authority, and we created a program that gave middle school students the knowledge and skills they need to ride public transit. Because after all, we get physical activity walking to and from bus stops, and having the know-how and confidence to use public transit can be life-changing for a young person and really help them develop independent skills. So we showed them how to read maps and timetables, and the Humboldt Transit Authority came to the school with a bus and gave student firsthand experience boarding the bus, and showed us how to load a bicycle onto the bus's bike rack on the front of the bus. So that was a real creative partnership that really sort of fed two birds with one hand, in the sense that we were able to engage the middle school students and work with our community partners. So Safe Routes to School and then the Active Transportation Program has provided funding that's enabled us to coordinate some really great programs in Humboldt County. But as you know, funding is always limited, it's never guaranteed. And so we all need to be creative and work with who we have already engaged. So here's an example of another creative solution to funding limitations that came about years ago, when Humboldt County Public Works and RCAA's Natural Resources Services Division received funding through Caltrans Environmental Justice Program to develop a cooperative funding program for urgent small-scale transportation programs or projects. So the Rural Transportation Access and Partnership Program was created to help rural communities overcome challenges to transportation and improve access to goods, services, employment, education, and recreation via all modes. It's a matching program through the Humboldt County Department of Public Works. And the way it works is that the types of projects that are eligible, they could include street or road improvements, pedestrian and bike improvements, enhancement of sites for access to public transit, that type of thing within county jurisdiction. And then a match provided by residents or community organizations would mean, providing materials or services or labor. And then the county could provide the equipment or staff time to see the project through to completion. And so, again, this is just a way when you say, hey, I need this gap, the sidewalk gap filled in, or I need some traffic calming, but there's no funding. This was a really creative solution to addressing that lack of funding. And so here is some before and after picture of a project that we worked at Dow's Prairie School. You can see on the left, there was a sidewalk that led to a sidewalk gap and crosswalk, and just not a very safe walking environment for children. And so through the RTAP, we were able to construct I think it was about 1,000 or 500 foot long asphalt path to connect the two sidewalk gaps. This was really awesome partnership between the county, the school, and the community. So I think that it's really helpful to find partners and champions that are already working on the same goals as you. So take the time to research who else is working on these active transportation and active living programs in your community. Often there's nonprofits or your local public health department or schools that are working on initiatives to improve health and wellness that you can tag on to. When you're planning events, again, work with others in the community and try to value add to their planned workshops and opportunities. Try to sort of double dip. So, for example, if you need to provide, pedestrian or bicycle safety lessons, make sure you're covering the required teaching standards in your lesson. That's going to help the teachers cover those topics. If you have to table and you want to get information out about an event, set up that table at an existing event that's already happening to promote your programs. You're going to get a lot further instead of starting from scratch. Here's another example. When we partnered with our school transportation manager in Eureka, this was an amazing way to grow our Walk to School Day program. So years ago, in Eureka City Schools, our transportation manager joined the task force. And when he learned about Walk to School Day, he came up with a really creative way to include bus riders in the event. He said, well, let's establish a remote drop-off location as a regular bus stop and have the bus riders bring permission slips on Walk to School Day. And so the kids with walking permission slips were able to get off the bus at the remote drop-off and walk the rest of the way to school with their friends and participate in the event. That was huge. We really grew the number of participants in the program, and it was something I never would have done or thought of without the help of this important partner. Make sure you include decision makers in your program, whether it's by speaking at public meetings or inviting them to your events. They need to be part of the project from the start so that they can be part of the solution. Whenever possible, we've incorporated civic opportunities into our Safe Routes to School programs, whether we connect students to officials during meetings to share concerns or inviting them to participate in our events like walkability assessments. But in rural regions, decision makers often have long-term close relationships with residents, or at least we do here in Humboldt County. And one of our county supervisors, Supervisor Steve Madrone, he's been an amazing partner on the Caltrans Sustainable Communities Grant that I mentioned just moments ago, the McKinleyville Multimodal Connections Project. He's really been thinking outside the box, encouraging us to think outside of our current county and Caltrans right-of-way limitations to determine if we might be able to collaborate with private landowners on a new trail alignment. So, it's really an exciting prospect that may not have been explored if this supervisor hadn't been a strong community partner willing to meet and work with private property owners. So, one of the biggest takeaways, I think, for you is recognizing that things are just not always as they seem. And it's, important to take risks and try new things. Divergent thinking can lead to fresh ideas and solutions. Change is a necessary part of us evolving and improving our program, so be willing and open to change. And with that, that is the end of my presentation. We are next going to be hearing from Tamy Quigley, and so I would like to thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Jenny. That was fantastic. Welcome, everybody. Nicole Donahue is our producer of this panel, and she is going to be sharing my presentation with you this morning. I just want someone to give me a yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Nicole. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Active Transportation Symposium. I am truly honored to be here with you today. And like I had mentioned, I'll be talking through my presentation, and Nicole generously offered to advance through the slides. As mentioned, I am Tamy Quigley, and I work for Caltrans District 2, which is the Reading office. And Nicole, if you want to advance the slide to show where we're at on the map, and I can and go one more if you wouldn't mind, since a lot of this is just talk. There's a visual for you. I have worked in the District 2 office for all of my career, which is 22 years. And for that whole time, I've had the pleasure of working to build relationships. So together today, with our time together, I will walk through letting you know a little bit more about who we are, what we focus on, when and where we do our work. I will do some highlights on why and how, which is just so important, and then give an example of a strong partnership that was built with the Karuk tribe and the community and people of Happy Camp. And finally, I will share that story with you. It's a fantastic one. And out of my presentation today, it is my hope that I share some of what we do at Caltrans District 2 and offer things that may help you further connect with Caltrans in the various districts in which you might reside. And that map there on the left might help point to where your Caltrans district number is, if you don't already know, and some things that we are doing to build and foster partnerships within our community up here. District 2, who are we? We are predominantly a very rural district with just one urban area there right in the center. Reading is our incorporated area there. And we together have, if you kind of look at that map on the left, all those white bold lines, that is our travelway system. That's our state highway system. And we have over 1,700 miles. And 95% of those lane miles are open to those people walking, biking, and rolling. So we really have a large area of responsibility. And we include Tehama, Shasta, Siskiyou, Trinity, Modoc, Lassen, and Plumas counties. And within those spaces are 20 incorporated cities. We also have 23 tribes, and it looks like my tribal map didn't make it on here. And for that, I apologize, because it is important to note that all of District 2 resides on tribal ancestral lands, and we work very closely with our tribes and have a fantastic working relationship and partnership with them. And then another thing that sets us a little bit aside from other Caltrans districts is the fact that we do have 48 main streets. And those are on our highway system. And these are highways that have bisected a community within these small towns that we reside in. So those pictures just kind of give you who we are. And then Nicole, if you wouldn't mind advancing, please. Work out of my office is I get to manage the Office of Complete Streets and Livable Communities. And one of my staff pointed it out, we're a startup. We just band together right when the pandemic hit, and I've had the fortunate pleasure of building this team and bringing on and managing 4 other planners that are doing some really good work. And I'll highlight some of the work we're doing. My office does reside in the Division of Planning and Local Assistance. And one of the bigger efforts out of our office is that we are the program advisor for the Complete Street Target Allocations in the State Highway Operations and Protection Program. This street terms the SHOP. And if you joined the symposium early, you would have heard Director Omashakin and Secretary can touch on discussing that Caltrans now has complete street funding that we have included in the shop. And I just, from the bottom of my heart, it's truly been an honor to be able to work on developing and associating complete street aspects into our projects for the very first time ever in Caltrans history. It's not been a small lift, and I think the work we do is going to be a benefit across the state for sure. Other work within my team is that we are the Complete Streets Coordinator for the planning. In our programs, we work closely with the Active Transportation Program and the other planning aspects of what we do, system planning, regional and community planning. And we specifically work from the bridge between the planning documents, transportation concept reports, long-range planning aspects that are internal to Caltrans, and then those that are also external agency planning, whether it's specifically an active transportation plan or something larger that includes program or project delivery aspects. And we work them through to our capital project development. I mentioned we work on the active transportation out of my office. We focus on those projects that might be being developed on our state highway system, and our local assistance office works with our local agencies. We are bringing on the equity aspect into my unit, and I'm so excited and have great staff working on that. We also include sustainability and innovation. We house the bike and ped coordination, and we are about 75% through the district active transportation plan, which Director Alma spoke of early as well. And I would say the big thing that we work on, and I'll have a significant pride, is our public outreach and engagement, where we're working to build partnerships in planning and project development. Nicole, would you mind bumping? What we do, the work we do really truly is centered around the people of District 2. It is our goal daily and our desired outcome to make these meaningful planning and project development connections through relationships, through respect, oftentimes through repair, proudly, and reciprocity. And we do so by working through building and maintaining partnerships as a daily practice. It's kind of where we start all the time. There really isn't a conversation that doesn't happen that this isn't at the forefront of what we're working to do. And that's whether we're working on a planning study with a local agency or something more internal to a Caltrans document. This work is being done oftentimes to do a lot of discovery and project development. So we're always having the community and the sense of partnership at the forefront of the work we do. It really is it is an important component to know that the lens that we always wear in my unit is making sure that we have the community and that partnership on the forefront of the work we do, because it's not our space, but we're helping to develop it. And so that's just kind of a space in which all of us work from. One of the ways that we get there, which I think has honestly been an anchor to our success, is each year we do what I call a road show, and where we go and meet with local agencies and partners. And from the Caltrans side, that team, and again, this is District 2, it looks different across the state. These meetings include planning, which is predominantly my team and a few others. Also our advanced planning, where project development happens and starts. Our asset management team, which is responsible for our budget and the bank and making sure everything balances, and our project management teams. And we cover past projects, present projects, projects that are moving through discovery and development. I say discovery because that's the word that we like to start with in our communities. We go and start to discover the who we need to connect with and unpack that pretty thoroughly. And then we start that development process in partnership, internally and externally. During these meetings, we discuss the many aspects and details of programs and projects, and we try and bring information to them and deliver in a way that we've met with them ahead of time to ask how they want us to deliver information and coordinate. We develop maps, and we develop any kind of aspects of sharing material that they would like. These meetings have become an important key component of building and maintaining partnerships. It's given us consistency, open dialogue, sharing of information, allowed us to capture feedback that has just been an anchor to what we do. It allows free flow of thought and dialogue, because we're just in a space where we can talk about an area that might be of importance and make sure it's captured in planning documents so we can move it forward when the timing's right, or create the timing to make it right. And we do this in all of our 7 counties, and that incorporates all of the incorporated and unincorporated areas and people within those spaces. And I will tell you that doing this has literally been the foundation in which we've come to know our community space, the needs and the people of our communities, and been the foundation for us to build a partnership from. Another thing that we do that I think is a really good takeaway and a tidbit, and this doesn't have to be anything formal, these can be just attending events within the communities within your area. And we do this on a regular basis, and we have found it to be a great way to stay informed, and another way to keep those strong connections. And really, honestly, over the time in which we've spent the last year and a half on a virtual platform, I've been able to attend more. Many communities are hosting monthly meetings, and we can just pop in and talk to them, ask for a place on their agenda, or just ask if we can listen because we might have something that we want to try and develop with them. It's been a really great kind of almost impromptu benefit of the world we've been living in for the last year and a half or so. So this has been a really great aspect. I often want to, suggest to my staff is, you may not have visited that town physically, you may not have gone there, in person, but we can attend virtual meetings. We can hop into their space. This is their town. We want to hear what's going on, see if we can be of any help. And it allows us just that connection, ongoing connection, and discuss the tough stuff sometimes, discuss process with them. I would say my team is not necessarily afraid to just sit and listen as well. And then also we try and talk through what we can or can't do. One of the things that has been really beneficial in this virtual world is that we have a staff person that has arranged to do meet and greets where we would have a level of our exec team or leadership team be available to attend these meetings, which may not typically have been the case, because to visit one small town might be literally a 7-hour drive one way. And so this world with virtual meetup and greet up and meeting in their towns has given us a chance to really connect more people to those communities. And I think that that's truly been a good thing. I liked Monique gave an example in their keynote. They attended a community meeting in a bar, and what was born of that was something amazing. We all heard that and listened well. Meeting places should be where the need is and where the people are. And that means, get out of our space and go to their space. And that is something that I have a philosophy I've kind of taken on for all of my years. And I think it's done well, because sometimes I will even see people from outside of the Reading area where I reside. And I'll be like, oh, you live up in that town, and we'll just start talking. And all of a sudden you're talking about a little bit more than work, but I feel that there's the importance. And then maybe it goes over to talking about what their needs might be in the community. So it gave you a chance to connect, whereas you may not have necessarily had that platform. Can you bump forward, Nicole? When do we do this work? Literally in everything that we do. And I'm not going to dive too deep into this. I gave context for high levels because I think we can build framework off of context, but continuing to be that partner in all the work we do. I touched on this a little bit in the last slide, but we'll add that it is so helpful that we get to make partnership connections a common practice, right? Do that all the time. If you see someone in a different space, be like, aren't you from that community? And talk, and maybe they're not. And you got it wrong, but then all of a sudden you got it right because you just initiated that connection. And just incorporate it into your daily work. Share a vision, mission, goals, and values. And we do that in all the work we do because we're trying to make those meaningful connections. There literally isn't a day that doesn't go by that we're not talking and developing, planning and project development, and not have regard for the community. We know we need to reach out and do this. Did we connect with them again? Have we talked to them about this? Have we set up a meeting? And that's where we come from. And I think that's a great place to come from when you're looking to build partnerships. Have a genuine interest in and commitment to the community. Again, I did talk a little bit about this, but I'll reiterate. If you don't know the space, go to it. We have access to the internet. We can go see what goes on there. Maybe you're like, well, that looks like a really fun thing. Maybe I'll take my family and kids there and travel there and do something fun. Show mutual trust and respect for partners every step of the way. And I just can't drive this home enough. This can be a tough one sometimes. And I found some simple approaches are just really to listen. You don't have to say anything. do active listening. It's really, let it be your strength. Let them know that they have been heard. Follow up, follow through, and be honest. That's your trust and respect. And it goes a long, long way. We don't always like this process that we have to go through sometimes because we are a government entity and there is process. But I have just found that keeping those ears open sometimes and really active listening has just been key. They have ideas and then sometimes they'll challenge the process and you're like, well, maybe we can. And sometimes the answer ends up being that we can, but we thought we couldn't. So just listening and making sure that we're touching base with all the community members and nonprofits, schools, various groups, businesses. There really are so many. So being in touch with who within that community knows all the people, but let them know also that we are trying to reach everyone. Underserved, disadvantaged community sectors. We're trying to be very equitable in the work that we do, but we don't always know the work that needs to be done. So you need to dig, getting with cities and counties, services, and where can we reach the people, and then go to them. And if I don't drive it home enough, meet people in their space. I often say I don't look to plan and develop projects from Redding for a city outside or a town outside the Redding, California area. One thing too is always be building new relationships and always be building new connections, but continue to strengthen and maintain the ones you have. So don't forget about the ones that you've already connected with, because oftentimes they're going to be a real nugget and a real sense of value. And they may let you know of, hey, this is going on, or here's some people we need to reach, right? That may not normally have a voice. They don't have access to gaining that information readily, like some of the traditional senses. Let's be untraditional as often as possible and make that tradition. So yeah, if you could advance, please. Where, again, see the theme, we're doing it all the time as often as possible, where as many places as possible, meeting those people where they're at. That's something I started early on, and I feel that has had tremendous value in maintaining and building relationships. Again, attend those regular meetings. Try and reach, we have a traditional approach to things. Let's try and be untraditional, because you don't often reach the underserved spaces, towns, or communities by doing something traditional. So let's do something untraditional and then make that the traditional, where we start. Let our communities help you understand them better. Connect with cities and counties to find those spaces to work from and reach the people. And to ensure we're not making any assumptions. That's been really key too, is don't make any assumptions that you have actually spoken to the people that know and have the need, because it seems like we often just, let's go to city and county and see what their needs are. We can find that typically easily. It's doing the work that we cannot get to easily and making that something we can do a little more at the beginning and start from there, and then connect with the more obvious later. I touched on this in the previous. I will emphasize, meet the people, go to where they are and where they want you to be. Ask, are there meetings that I need to attend that I don't know about? And these, they might be in the evening, and we need to be flexible and to reach them. And it's okay to ask questions. It's okay not to know, but the important thing is ask the questions. Want to know, build that relationship. We try and get from that harmful space in which we've probably neglected relationships. And that's work we really try and do and focus on a lot. Okay, next slide. Why is it important? Because it's very, very important. And although there's only a few bullets, and I've just kept everything very text, because what I tried to do in this, and I believe you guys end up getting these presentations if you don't reach out, is just to develop a framework to move forward from. Why is this important? Establish and build the trust. And I would say that on every single slide. It should be something we are continuing to do. And if you have community building and relationship building at the forefront of your work every day, then it starts to become the work we do every day and not something that we have to try and do. One key thing here is explain constraints. Be honest with them. We may not be able to do that, but let's go figure it out, because then again, like I mentioned, maybe you'll be able to. And listen to their questions, because people have great ideas. They live there. They know what they want. And to us, it might not look so obvious. They might actually have the answer if you talk to them. And that's something that a really great tool we have found is go talk to them. Maybe they're like, gosh, if we just put, I work all complete streets active transportation. If we just go here with the path where we were not looking, and all of a sudden it made all the sense in the world. So sit with them for a minute and talk to them. Develop an offer and encourage support two-way. This is where active listening is key. And sometimes that's all we do. And that is a beautiful communication method because it gives you some great ideas. You build that trust and respect, and then you start to work from a place it's going to probably be together in partnership. State highways are not mine, right? They are all of ours. And I don't want to, nor should I think it's upon us to sit in my office, or whether that's my home office or somewhere else, and plan for what another community needs. So that's really why it's important, is these are ours. Next slide. There are truly endless ways, and this is a list of that could go on and on and on for many slides. But I just highlighted a few that I think are of the most importance. Again, this is just a framework. Be traditional and untraditional, talked about that. Let's move untraditional outreach and engagement to more meaningful, making it traditional. Where we start from should not be where we've historically started from, or we'll continue to have the same patterns, and we will not reach the most underserved or the typically underrepresented or the disadvantaged communities. We will continue to do the same thing. And I just don't feel like that's where we're at or where we want to head as a department. And I know specifically in District 2, it's not. Try and find some space. Again, if you make connections within your community and build partnerships, all of a sudden those doors will start to open of where you need to go. Ask the questions, and don't be afraid to ask the questions. It's okay if we don't know. Ignorance is bliss. Just become educated, and then we're no longer ignorant to it. I just like to say, live in a vulnerable space. Sometimes it becomes the most beautiful place you end up being in. Be proactive. This is an area where we've done pretty good in up here. We don't know what you need. So let's just try and attend some things. You can just hop on meetings virtually now. And I think that has really been of benefit. And one thing that we're doing now, moving forward, now that we do have some funding and we can be a little louder voice, I like to say, I'm sitting at the adult table now from the kids table, is we're developing engagement plans for our communities and our projects. And they don't all look the same, and they shouldn't, but that's going to be something, a really good anchoring point in which we start to further develop and maintain partnerships. Won't get into a lot of this. Again, I'm just trying to help build some of that framework, but I want to also emphasize honesty goes a long way. Even if you just say, I don't know, let me get back to you, instead of trying to find a space to answer when sometimes there just isn't one, and that's perfectly fine. We'll get to one. Let's do it together, which brings me to the next slide, please. This was abstracted out of Caltrans key strategies for successful public engagement. And then don't necessarily want to focus on just the context, but the bolded portion is the language says design an approach using best practices. Well, what is that for you? What is that for the community? Do this with us, please. We want you all to do this with us. Develop a public engagement plan with us, not just some form that we're saying, this looks really good. Go to the community, go to a meeting, go engage with certain aspects of where their space is, and help us. We don't know, but we want to know. Help us get it right? Help us be successful for you. If we are the driving the bus, we want you on it. We want the music up. We want to know where we're going, give us directions. We really don't want to be doing this on our own. And if it seems like we have in the past, I'm going to go ahead and be very bold and say, I don't think it's where we want to go in the future. So help us get there, please. You know best. Okay, so I'm going to share with you now, if you wouldn't mind, jump into the next slide. The Happy Camp Complete Streets project, just to give you context. So I'm just going to share with you now a strong partnership that was built and a success story, and then I'll wrap it up. If you look at that red arrow at the top of the map on the right, shows you right where Happy Camp is. So little tiny little unincorporated area, severely disadvantaged sector in its tribal territory, tribal partners, amazing project. Through the project development, this logo that you see on the left was created, and took about 2 years to get there, to make sure that person on the bike was representative, to make sure that we did have Bigfoot in there in the right place. And that was done so with the cultural resources director of the Karuk tribe. All of that is very meaningful, as is the project. So I want to utilize the Happy Camp Complete Street project as an example of where we have had a decade of hard work and collaboration with the Krupp tribe and the community and people of Happy Camp. It is only a success, and this project now is a success because of a number of little successes, right? And then I think we need to stay there for a minute. Little successes create the big success, and so make sure to celebrate those along the way, learn from them, and then move forward from them as well. And the team that was committed to doing this, and I'll recognize some of them along the way, truly band together to do the right thing for the people of Happy Camp and the traveling public, because this is a space of recreation for fishing and more. This ended up being the Happy Camp Complete Street project ended up being a successful award in the cycle 5 of the Active Transportation Program, as the Krupp tribe being the applicant and Caltrans District 2 being the partner agency. And I could go on, but I'm not going to. The work it took, I'll advance through. If you want to keep moving a little bit there, onto the next slide. So the HCCSP, the Happy Camp Complete Streets project team, it took 10 years, literally from month to what we just had as a success. And this is just a short list of people that it took to move the project from the very inception, where the Krupp tribe came to Caltrans to help us make this big wide open space a place that our town community and the people can call home, so we can walk safely, ride safely, roll safely. The cars can have their space, we can have transit connections. And this just gives you kind of a list of people, and it grew. This is just a very condensed list of people, all the way from the council, the Krupp tribe council, to the various departments within the county itself, which is Siskiyou County, and a few other people along the way. UC Berkeley helped with getting some funding to do some studies there. If you advance one more, I would like to just capitalize what it takes. I underline it takes people, planning, lots of patience, partnerships to make this possible. And here's just another list of condensed items. This Happy Camp Complete Street project was in every single one of these plans. And for those of you in the planning world or who have dabbled or heard about the planning world, these all take a lot. You don't just develop these. So every single one of these plans worked through development of creating the priority aspects of the Complete Streets Happy Camp project. And in every one of these plans, there's public outreach, there's engagement, there's patience and people. And you can literally look up in every one of these plans, and this project will show a priority. And that's really what it takes sometimes to get funding, is you have to really do the hard work to prioritize. And this is some of the work it took to prioritize this project. In the next couple slides, I'm going to go through pretty quickly, but I'm going to make, you can advance, Nicole. The next 3 slides have a lot of dates on them, but I'm just going to do some quick highlights because it's the end of the story that I want to touch on real quick as I wrap things up. A lot of details on this slide to identify the engagement aspects of the project, but the title of this slide is key. Make the connections in order to build the partnerships. It is and what should be the journey. These are just dates where a lot of stuff happened. And I'm not going to say these are just dates, because public meetings, we went to schools and sat on the floor with school children of the elementary, drawing pictures of, if you were able to walk to school, what does that look like? Connecting within the community at their ancestral days or their heritage days, putting a pop-up. Can we talk to you about what it would look like for you to have a meaningful and comfortable space to get to your services, to get to your people, to go shopping? And many, many times we traveled the 4.5 hours one way to Happy Camp from Reading to talk, meet them in their space. And I think if you advance to the next slide, Nicole, this just again continues to illustrate the journey. We began in October of 2011, and every single bullet on these slides tells you what we did, who we went, we did some update, who we went and talked to, some updates in internal documents, because we did not have this project properly represented. That was on us. We didn't do it right. We were caught in a process in which we had not prioritized the project. Let's write that. Let's prioritize the project. And this just illustrates the journey. It often takes time, as it should, and a wide range of engagement activities because this truly is a representation of what it takes. I'll be vulnerable and honest. Caltrans District 2 put this application together. We thought we were ready. Cycle 2, nope, whoops, don't have enough, didn't do it right. Cycle 3, well, we need to get a study in here to look at the aspects of safety a little bit better. We thought we nailed it in cycle 4, and we didn't get it right. So out of that, I'm not going to call it a failure. Out of that leg of the journey, we decided, what if we just asked the Crook tribe to be the applicant and we would partner with them? So if you just advance one more slide, Nicole. We get to have a happy ending. And this slide, again, I want to capitalize on the bolded. In March of 2021, Crook Tribe was awarded $9.9 million of active transportation program funds for the Happy Camp Complete Street project. And just a couple weeks ago, the CTC voted that District 2 has the honor to allocate the funds to start that project. And you just saw 3 slides of information that it took really to navigate through, and that doesn't even really begin to chip off a lot of the work that was done, but this represents the partnership. As we tried 4 times in a very competitive program that's beautiful and doing so much good work out there, but we didn't ever give up. We didn't give up on the relationships. We made more. We kept the meaningful ones. And then we went back to the community. It's like, hey, you guys, it didn't work out. What can we do? And we just never gave up on the community. So that is the happy ending. And then I'll finish on this last slide here. And it would look, if you just bump up one. This picture is the healthy walking day for the elementary school. We're several vehicles. This is State Route 96. This is our route, big, wide open space. And they want to get the kids out for a little bit of exercise a couple times a week, and they have to navigate. This crosswalk is not complete, and it leads into bushes. And we use vehicles to stop oncoming traffic because the speed limit, although it's posted at 50 and 45, we often know that those speeds are much higher through wide open spaces. And so I'd like to, at this time, I'm not sure if there are any members, but congratulate the Crook tribe of their successful Cycle 5 ATP application with a nice award of $9.9 million. And ATP, the project cost is just over $12 million, and District 2 has come to the table to help with some funding, as well as the Crook tribe and some of their tribal money to come forward and support this project. I have so much gratitude and appreciation to the tribe. But one thing I would like to also point out that is a huge aspect of partnership is typically for a tribe to do business, their sovereign nation to do business with Caltrans. In the past, we've had to ask them to waive their sovereign immunity, and we did not have to do that this time. We partnered internally with many Caltrans people, in which I'm so thankful for all of them listening and understanding that this is not an option. This shouldn't be an option. And we entered into a joint power agreement, and that meant that we did not have to ask the Crook tribe to waive their sovereign immunity to do business and bring this project forward. And I would like to extend a very huge gratitude to the CTC and their staff. There are just no words to mention how exciting it was to finally hear this project go to vote just recently, a couple weeks ago. And District 2 is honored to deliver this this project on behalf of the Crook tribe, the community of Happy Camp. And if you just go one more slide, this is my finishing slide. This might look like a simple drawing, you guys, but it's really a 10-year journey. We took this drawing and people loved it. They understood what we were trying to come at. And there was a lot of iterations, but it's been the most amazing partnership. I would be willing to talk with anyone about it if they were more interested. And many of us will be celebrating a ribbon cutting in 2025 when we open the streets of Happy Camp for everyone to have a meaningful and great, comfortable space to walk, bike, and roll in. So that's last slide's my final, just to say thank you for this opportunity today to talk with you. If you want to advance one more, my goal today has been to inspire, right? To encourage somebody to do a greater effort, offer enthusiasm or creativity, to awaken a particular feeling in somebody. So thank you. I hope you all make it a great Connect, Visualize, and Transform Symposium. And there's my information. If anybody wants to be in touch with me, I would welcome that. Thank you. Next up, we have Alma.
Hi, everybody. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Great, perfect. Thank you. Thank you all for having me. I'm gonna try to go relatively quickly because I do want to make sure that there are still time for questions. Just to start off, my name is Alma Leyva. I'm the Community Programs Manager at CalWalks. CalWalks is the statewide voice for pedestrian safety and healthy, walkable communities for people of all ages and abilities. We work throughout the state and have various community programs through community programs and policy, all of which require really strong partnerships with communities and with agencies, and with our community delivery partners such as UC Berkeley SafeTrack. We have various community programs that are that include but are not limited to focus cities, where we work with the 7 focus cities that are designated in California. We work with them to be able to provide free resources and technical assistance through CalWalks and UC Berkeley SafeTrack. We have our community pedestrian bicycle safety trainings, which provide participants with a multidisciplinary approach to pedestrian and bicycle safety, including guided walking and biking assessments along their local streets, and interactive education to be able to get folks to talk through what solutions can be like in their community. There's also Comunidades Activas y Seguras, which I'll talk a little bit more about later on in the presentation, and our Community Ambassador Program, which I'll also talk about later, and projects like Walk San Jose, which looks to uphold CalWalks' vision to create safe and inclusive streets in San Jose. Before I move forward, I want to recognize that the land where I'm at is unceded ancestral lands of the Tongva peoples. As our discussion has been going on, not just this one that I'm doing, but previous presenters too, wanting to really recognize the land that we're on and have that discussion like really guide us. I want to challenge everyone and every one of us to really think about how our transportation policies and our planning and advocacy have impacted Native lands, and the roles that this plays in our discussions that we continue to talk and plan on stolen land. So folks can also head over to the website that's on the screen to check out more about the tribes that live in the land that you're on as well. So I also want to acknowledge that as CalWalks, we don't have all the answers, but we're trying to build new models to move the conversation in a more holistic way. In the wake of last year's Black Lives Matter and other uprisings, we want to recognize the importance of addressing the ways in which planning and transportation has really played into white supremacy, how planning practices have displaced Black, Indigenous people of color through things like redlining, gentrification, and even our perception of what safety and enforcement is. Limiting safety and limiting active transportation to only infrastructure has really impacted Black, Indigenous people of color in negative ways, and exposing already over-policed communities to more situations where their lives are literally on the line. Moving forward, we really want our transportation work to be looked at in a more holistic way. So one that's really going to center race, gender, sexual orientation, immigration status, and somebody's entire humanity being considered when planning and advocacy. So like I said, safety is much more than protection from cars. It's also about how people are feeling safe and how people are able to navigate public space with their identities. So we need to do a lot more work through wellness, safety, and sustainability in a way that acknowledges these communities. And in a way that's also working towards intentionally repairing the harm that has been caused through planning. So like I said, at CalWalks, we have various projects, all of which require strong partnerships with both agencies and community members. Our goal has been to be able to bridge these two groups and provide a direct way for community members to lead and voice not just their concerns, but the solutions for their own communities. Most of the work that we've done has tried to go really beyond infrastructure improvements and also focus on community planning and community-led solutions. Building strong community partnerships for us has really meant being intentional. So building relationships with people and organizations in a meaningful way. Learning about each other so that we can build long-lasting relationships that help better support the work long-term, but also drawing on each other's strengths and supporting each other in the areas that we might not be as strong. So even though we're statewide, we don't all live in the communities where we are running our programs. So it's really important to recognize the expertise of community residents that actually live, work, and play in the communities that we're working with. So we rely really heavily on not only their expertise, but just recognizing that they are the ones in the best position to provide like these solutions. So building solutions outside of our focus area of active transportation, but also, like I said, looking at things more holistically and looking at what resources folks need in their communities. So building strong relationships has also meant being reciprocal. So giving those folks that are directly impacted the tools and the opportunities to lead their own work and to control their narrative. Listening to this holistic needs, especially during this global pandemic that has changed a lot of the ways in which people walk, bike, and roll or move around their neighborhoods. So we have to recognize that there may be a lot of more urgent priorities at this time, especially when it comes to public health, housing, financial stability, employment, and education, and a lot of other things. So while as an organization, we might not be able to address all of those concerns through our programming, we can support a community so that they can work towards a holistic plan for helping each other during these times. And then also providing resources in the areas that folks need. So being able to know what the needs are and find resources for folks, but also maybe some more technical resources like supporting with grant applications, reviewing applications for ATP, or even finding ways to fund our community partners to continue to support their active transportation work. So I want to talk a bit about our pilot program, Comunidades Activas y Seguras. This year, we piloted this year and worked with 2 communities in California, one in the Central Valley and one in Southern California. This program really works to cater to the needs of monolingual Spanish speakers. So it's a program that's culturally sensitive, and that the curriculum was really developed to be relevant to Spanish speakers and to help improve walking and biking safety in California in communities where the residents are often excluded from the planning process because of language barriers. The training was not only just in Spanish, but it was completely developed in Spanish. So not just doing things in English and then just translating. We really wanted to do something that was gonna make sense for the community members, that was in their language, that was fun, that was interactive. So we partnered this year with LAWalks and Wilmington Calles Seguras y Familias Sanas for our Wilmington, Los Angeles site, and with the Greenfield Walking Group for our Greenfield community site. And Greenfield is a community in the unincorporated area of Kern County. Both of these communities had a lot of very different concerns, one being in the Central Valley, where it was an unincorporated area, needing more open spaces, more safer open spaces, and wanting to have the opportunity to really engage in advocacy, or like help with being able to support their advocacy to find investments to improve Greenfield Park. And then Wilmington as well was as a port community in LA, very tight-knit community with various resident groups that are already working a lot within active transportation. This program really helped us partner directly with community residents, which was my favorite part. Being able to, I think a lot of the work often gets done with agencies, but being able to support resident leadership and having the opportunity to really highlight their concerns and their solutions was really great. The training consisted of different activities that really drew on participants' past experience. A lot of folks come from Latin American countries where active transportation is really different than what it looks like here. And so being able to draw a bit on what their experience was like growing up and walking and biking in their communities where they're from, and also being able to use that experience to plan for and vision or create a vision for the future of their community where they're at now. So we focus really heavily on storytelling, which led to the development of our community podcast called Los Caminos de la Vía, which I'm going to share a really small portion of. It is all in Spanish, but I put the English transcript on the side for folks that want to follow along. And I'm happy to share the link as well for folks to listen to the whole thing. So the podcast segment that you'll be listening to is the one from Wilmington.
Estamos tan acostumbrados a todo este sistema de que ya lo vemos normal. Y es ahí donde está el problema, de que no estamos reconociendo que no es normal y no debe ser normal.
No esperes que sea tu familia, que sea tu familiar a quien le toque, toma conciencia y toma control de ese volante, de que realmente estás en un proyectil, porque el auto es un proyectil en la cual matas en segundos. Entonces es muy importante que tomemos conciencia, no solamente salir ciclavía, sino también una caminata de concientización de que realmente tomemos conciencia sobre ese volante y sobre la velocidad. Saber manejar no es correr, es tomar conciencia. Nos pueden apoyar haciendo un gran cambio, tomando conciencia, que hoy nos toca, mañana quién sabe.
So like I said, this is a segment from Wilmington. We recognize that storytelling is really powerful. And as we transformed our training to a virtual setting, we really wanted to give space for community members to really uplift the stories that were happening in their communities and to be able to, just to share what's going on and what they wanted to see. So again, everything was fully in Spanish. If you want to check it out, the podcast, you can find it bit.ly/Caminos de la Vía. I can send over the link as well. But yeah, it was really great to be able to work with communities. And just really quick, to be able to talk about our Community Safety Ambassador Training Program. It was also a joint project with SCAG for its Go Human campaign and CalWalks. The Ambassador Program was designed to be a virtual community engagement and leadership development opportunity for community members. It provided education and resources through a series of trainings and workshops and activations that focused on walking and biking safety. And so these activations were done by the community members or by the participants or the ambassadors that were part of the program. It ran from May to September. And the ambassadors were compensated upon completing the program, which included attending trainings and workshop sessions, and also completing that activation. This project really used in a lot of interactive activities. So when we're talking about being accessible and being reciprocal in our relationships, and like Tamy was saying, like meeting people where they're at, right? So having conversations with folks on being able to, like when was the best time? What are the needs that they wanted to meet? With everything moving virtually, making sure that people had like Wi-Fi extenders or had access to printouts, just making sure that everything that they needed to be part of this program was met. So ambassadors were also able to develop their leadership by facilitating one-on-one small discussion groups and fostering connections with other members and being able to build partnerships outside of their regions as well. So that's a bit, and I'm happy to share a lot more if folks want to get in touch with me directly on this program. Thank you all so much for being here. I just really want to emphasize that that a lot of this work that we're doing is long-term, right? Building safer streets is a long-term, requires long-term planning. And so building partnerships are crucial, and building partnerships that are longstanding and sustainable are equally as important. So we need to be able to rely on each other and build together, because alone we cannot take on all of these issues. So thank you all, and hopefully we continue to work with each other in more sustainable and healthy ways.
Thank you so much, everyone, for those presentations. I apologize, I can't turn my video at this time. But my name is Summer Lopez. I'm a project manager of the ATRC from Caltrans. We just are so passionate about all this work that we do, and we didn't judge our time very well. I sincerely apologize for that. Thank you so much for all of your questions. We will definitely see what we can do to get those answers to you. We will be copying all of those questions from our Q&A. I'd also like to ask you to please consider attending our virtual networking session on Thursday, where we can hopefully continue all of these conversations and also build ideas with one another. We are officially out of time. I would like to conclude this session by thanking all of our panelists for their presentations today. We'd also like to thank all of you who attended and engaged in this session. Our next session begins at 11:15. We hope to see you all there. Thank you so much.